People love to question conspiracy theorists and where they got their information from. We live in the age of information, so if you have an internet connection, you're basically tapped into an abundance of information. The same approach you take with outside information should be applied to the information you're fed on a daily basis. Don't just believe it because the source is credible. Maybe look into why the source is credible. Who does the source work for? Who owns the source of information? Which brings me to another topic around kids that talk back or question things or have something to say and don't just follow orders. Not everyone in life is meant for the military or jobs or careers where you blindly follow orders because you're serving something greater than yourself. Wouldn't you want your child to question you? You tell them to do something, and instead of doing it as if they're your slave, you also provide them with information on why they're doing it. This way they can process it and understand versus a typical guardian response, because I said so, if anyone's familiar with that. On one end, you say it's teaching respect your elders, but it goes deeper than that. And I know because I was once a child growing up in a household taking orders. All this teaches your child is to not question things, and whenever an authority figure asks them to do something, they'll do it because they believe they're being respectful and asking questions, or talking back is deemed as disrespectful. Then when your child is growing up and getting a taste of the real world, hanging out with friends and outside influences, they may find themselves in a situation where maybe they're doing something they haven't done before, but due to peer pressure or maybe someone older saying it's okay, they don't question it. They just do it. Then the parents find out and gets mad and saying, oh, you're a follower, and if your friend was to jump off a bridge, would you? You've heard that before. The child was never taught to think critically or question things based on their programming. They associate opening up their mouth with being disrespectful, so they don't. And I say this because having your child question things within the household is a good place to start. My mom always said, what you practice at home, you'll practice on the street, which basically means how you act is how you act. You can't hide your actions because your true nature will come out. So whatever you practice, you'll naturally just do when you leave the house. So if your child is learning to question their own parents, grandparents, aunts, and uncles, then when they go into the real world, I don't believe you'd have to worry too much about them being easily influenced or blindly following other people because they've been taught to ask questions. You know, in every movie or TV show, there's the main bully, and then they have maybe 1 to 3 sidekicks who just laugh and follow them around. You don't want that to be your child. I know I wouldn't. So first, we need to change how we approach following orders. Being a guardian or being older than someone doesn't mean you need to treat it like you're a sergeant and they're your subordinates, but more from a growth mindset. That makes sense. I even see this with siblings. An older sibling will talk down to the younger sibling or talk to them as if they're their parent, which isn't the case. I know for me personally, providing me information would have been good for me. This way I wouldn't feel like people who have pets feel like, who drag, pull, do whatever they want because they're bigger and stronger. I prefer guidance to help prepare me to be a man in the world today versus another person who just goes or just does what they're being told. So, questioning things has so many benefits, from encouraging your own personal growth, strengthening critical thinking, promoting independence and having a voice, expanding your awareness and perspective, and so much more. So, let's not treat questioning things necessarily as a bad thing, but a good thing, a positive sign that this person thinks for themselves. Let's give our parents the confidence to know when we leave the household, we can make good decisions. But also let's give people space to now understand just because they're asking a question, it doesn't necessarily mean they're being disrespectful. Being informed should be a good thing, especially if knowledge is power. So whenever you attempt to prevent information from freely being passed, you are intentionally withholding information, right? And this is from my personal point of view that could possibly help us break generational curses. Maybe help remind people who are guardians that your role is to be a guide and prepare them for the real world and not just boss them around because they're smaller than you, right? Respect goes both ways, and maybe you yourself have been on the giving or the receiving end of that. But when you know better, you can do better, which gives you an opportunity to do things differently. So cheers to breaking old programming, to being respectful to all, and for taking our power